Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Call is very important to us. Thank you for holding. We are currently experiencing more phone calls than we're ever experienced before. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
I've been on hold for 2 hours, 53 minutes and 46 seconds.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm trying to schedule a COVID test. So
Seriously?
just to make sure. I've had a cold for like a week. I think we talked about this the other day when I was like, can't this thing just break through, damn it? And
I know.
it did. So I've past two nights been getting to sleep like upright so my head doesn't clog up.
Good.
Good times.
Oh, that's great.
Good times.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
I don't know if you agree with this, but I think we would be very good at judging things.
Yes, I would definitely.
And I don't know why I say this in like the past tense, like we haven't done that already.
Are you telling me I'm going to die on my Peloton this afternoon?
I didn't say that.
Oh,
That's
okay.
So, but here's what, do you think, so there was that whole website, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Hot or Not? You familiar with this?
I am familiar with it.
And then are you familiar with the spin-off / parody account, Monkey Hot or Not?
Yes,
Did you ever visit that one?
I believe so. Yes, once or twice.
I found after like 2 or 3 pictures of 2 monkeys trying to decide which one's hotter, I got very good at deciding like that's a hotter monkey.
That does not surprise me about you.
So to that end,
Yes.
there's this great story in Dubai. 40 camels have been disqualified from the camel beauty contest because of a botox scandal.
Oh, it was a botox scandal.
So this is every year they have a month-long celebration of the dromedaries.
Mhm.
I am not going to pronounce the name of the king who the festival is named after, because that's probably going to be offensive. But this year, so there's been like any beauty contest, there's been a long attempt to try to sway the results one way or the other.
Of course.
And this year they said they've got advanced technology, which I want to see what that technology looks like, frankly, to help determine whether or not somebody is cheating. And they said they were going to crack down on anybody cheating, trying to make their camels extra sexy.
Oh, so no lipstick or anything like that?
I don't know if they make their humps bigger. I don't know.
Right, the lovely lady lumps.
Right. So, but apparently they have been stretching out the lips and noses of the camels with basically facelifts. They've used hormones to increase their muscles, injected their heads and lips with botox to make them bigger, inflated body parts with rubber bands, and used fillers to relax their faces.
No.
Now, why the phrase resting camel face has not been used more often now.
No, but it's about to be.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like we could tell when someone's been messing with a camel.
Oh, completely.
You know,
I totally know.
Yeah, and I feel like on top of that, we could tell you just what I couldn't.
Which camel's
it's like
prettier?
It's like the Supreme Court definition of pornography. I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. If you showed me 2 camels, I could tell you which one's hotter.
Oh, for sure, I could too.
And is it because I keep using the word hotter to describe an animal that makes this thing so bizarre?
I don't know. But then with camels, we got to be careful of our definition of hot, because camels, is one camel like out of water in their hump, or is it like attractive hot?
That's true.
Like the Paris Hilton definition, or the technical term based on
the 2 of us walking around and you just be like, that's hot.
Santa's here.
Santa. This is amazing.
I'm so happy right now.
There we go. Can you
Hello.
hear us?
I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
This is
I
so
suddenly feel better. Just seeing Santa, my day has in one instant just turned around.
Sorry about yesterday. I got stuck in traffic and
sleighs will do that to a person.
Yes. Happens to the best of us.
certainly does.
So one thing I wanted to get out of the way sort of early on, I saw, we were talking about this the other day, an article on CNN that said that there's a shortage of Santas this year, that in the past year, 700 Santas have died. I don't know who keeps track of such things, because that's 2 Santas a day. That's pretty intense. And then when I went back to find this article, I found another one instead that said, don't worry, Santa will be at your local mall. What is the status of Santa's helpers, if you will, across the country?
Well, I mean, currently, being with IBRBS and everything, we do get reports of Santas that passed away, but there's no way that it's 2 Santas a day. We probably lose in the past year, I would say, probably 4 to 5 a week. Part of it being from just old age, as you get older, and then part of it is with COVID and other illnesses that took place. So, my personal best guess would be we probably lost about 120 Santas over the past year between a combination of everything. There's no way we lost over 300.
That's too many Santas, frankly.
Yes. Yeah.
Imposters.
So how long have you been doing this?
Actually, I've been doing this 37 years now. I started very young. Well, I'm not young, I'm 68, but I started back with my first son being born, and then it just escalated from there, and it grew year after year after year, and this would have been my 10th year, but because of COVID and the restrictions, especially in New York City, where you need the Empire passport in order to go inside even a restaurant, it's made it very difficult. But I was one of the Santas at Radio City Music Hall for the past 10 years. So we didn't do it last year, and we're not doing it this year, and hopefully things will get better, that I can return next year. So
we all know that the Santas in New York City, Santa in New York City is the real Santa. We have learned this from Miracle on 34th Street, from many things. Yes. So being a real Santa, what is, now I've lost my question. I'm so excited. I'm like a little kid. What is the moment you most look forward to each season? Is it the first day, the last day, a particular event?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I live in New York City from November to January, and I work, there every single day. And I do about 100 performances during the season. So, I mean, I'm excited from the first day that I arrive in New York City until, I get disappointed on the last day that I leave New York City. So, I'm pretty excited about what I do there and everything, and the interaction that I have, because my position, or you might want to say my job during that period of season, is one, to interact with the children, two, to make them believers in the heart of Santa and everything that Santa represents. So, I love that part of it. I wouldn't trade that for the world.
It seems like a high bar you've got to cross every single day with that description that you just gave. I mean, you can't have a bad day as Santa. Or is it possible to have a bad day as Santa?
Well, I mean, everybody has a bad day, but you can't show the bad day that you're having. Sure. I mean, we all have things that happen and disappointments that happen. And, like today, I'm a little down. I have a little sinus thing going on, but, it's not going to stop me from doing what I have to do. And, we just been there and keep going through, I mean, we can't disappoint the children, and that's the whole thing about Santa. It's not about anything else or anyone else, and it's not even about Santa. It's about the children, and what Santa represents to the children itself.
So Elf on the Shelf, is he a friend to Santa and figuring out who should be on the good list and the bad list, or is Elf on the Shelf kind of a creepy imposter?
Well, honestly speaking, Elf on the Shelf, when it first came out, was a thorn in Santa's side, because there was so many expectations and how Santa would interact with Elf on the Shelf and what the role Elf on the Shelf would play. So I would say last 15 years, there's become more of a joint venture between Santa and Elf on the Shelf, and with the parents. When you do virtual visits or you do visits with home parties and you do everything like that, or you get a note from the parents and everything else, and they talk about the elf on the shelf, and they talk about the elf name, and they talk about what the elf has been up to and what little Johnny or little Roberta's been doing and not doing at home, and you can talk to them one-on-one and let them know that what's going on and who told you. You should see the eyes on the children when they get bigger than quarters, when they say, oh, he really does know, and that's important. So it's become, it's become a blessing now, not when it first came out though.
He does see you when you're sleeping, Heidi. You see that?
Oh man, it's true. Got to keep it together. I have one niece who was terrified of Elf on the Shelf. Terrified, would not come out of her room. She was so afraid, and it sort of backslid the whole thing. But she was never afraid of Santa.
Oh, that's good.
How do you strike that balance between the parents who, and I've seen it waiting in line with my own kids, that if you don't do this, Santa's not coming. These very to my mind, hyperbolic threats of all the terrible things that Santa will not do for children if they don't listen, if they don't behave. Do you play along with that? Do you just try to be like, guys, cool it. This is supposed to be fun and enjoyable and create a happy memory?
Well, Santa in my portrayal, I do Santa is not a disciplinarian. He's not the person, that tries to make that child behave, the other 364 days during the year. That's not my job. That's the job of the parent itself. So, when I go through it and everything else, and I interact with the children and everything, sometimes the biggest hurdle is the parents themselves, and you have to, say to the children, okay, we're going to talk, mom and dad, I got this. Let this be between me and the child itself, not to parents, they have expectations too. And, they want you to scare the child. And as far as, I've been doing all my life as Santa, that's not my job. I don't scare the children, and I don't tell them, and it's the same reason why, when people ask about, what they're going to get for Christmas or what they can get for Christmas, Santa says all the time, well, we'll try our best to do what's good for you. Okay. Not all the times, can you get something that you actually wish for? I'll tell you a funny story. A few years ago, I was working in Atlanta, Georgia, and I had this 8-year-old that came up to me and in my best Georgia accent said, I want a shotgun and a big caster. I said, what? He says, I want a shotgun and a big caster. And I said, oh, I don't think mom and dad would like you to have a shotgun. And then dad looks at me and says, oh yeah.
Well,
but, I mean, it's just those things, where you never know, but you don't put yourself in a position saying yes or no. You always say, well, I got to talk to mom and dad, especially when it comes to animals and they want dogs or cats or snakes or what.
Pony.
Like, it's like, well, Santa doesn't do that, because the animals get very cold when they travel, in the sky. So we'll have to talk to mom and dad and see what they have to say about it. So
Thank you,
That makes
Santa.
sense.
I have said this for a while now. Thank you.
Now you have confirmation officially.
Exactly. Yes. I asked Santa, and here's what he said.
Yes.
So, elves, are they a help, or are they just a great pestilence on the world? Where do you stand on elves?
No, I think elves are great addition to the Santa.
Pro
and,
elf. Okay, I'll put you down for pro. All right.
I think, in retrospect, you really can't do what you want to do as Santa and deliver all the toys that you have to deliver, without having the elves involved. It's like, when you talk to someone and they ask you about, well, what are the elves making and everything else, and you tell them, the elves, help Santa get all the toys ready for delivery and everything else, and Santa and the elves actually put together toys that you're not going to find in most of the department stores. They have a special spot, between Santa, and they have a special spot, with Mrs. Claus, who over the last few years, I would say probably in the last 4 or 5 years, has really become an entity on her own and really starting to build up more of a following, because before it was always just Santa, Santa, Santa. And now Mrs. Clauses are starting to come into the fold, into the mix a little bit more, which I'm excited about, because, like everything else in life and everything, you always need a partner to back you up and help you during those difficult parts.
Yeah. Well, ask her more, I think wasn't that the hashtag going around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway.
Yes.
Go ahead, Heidi.
No, it's fine. So of all the depictions of Santa through all the years in film and TV, which one do you think is the most accurate?
That's very difficult for me anyway. I'm sure you've talked to other Santas, and some Santas, look absolutely terrific, and some Santas, could use a lot of improvement, else in life. There's a difference between like Miracle on 34th Street, which is my all-time favorite, but of course, because of my age and everything else and stuff, versus Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. One is more based on the feeling and what to expect from Christmas, as in Miracle 34th Street, and the Santa Claus is more of what you're going to get type of scenario. So, I mean, for me, Miracle on 34th Street, is probably, the best, and I did do one working at Radio City in New York. I was also selected as the Santa at Miracle on 34th Street at the post office there. And I did
Wow.
Operation Santa with the US Post Office down there. So that's pretty happy.
Awesome. So all those letters came to you. You are the real Santa.
I'm frankly surprised you didn't go with Kurt Russell, because who doesn't want to look like Kurt Russell
Well,
for your favorite Santas? I mean, come on.
But he's a new Santa.
He's new Santa.
Nouveau Santa.
But that's jawline alone.
It's like the nouveau riche of Santa.
Kurt Russell and their depiction of Santa is, their depiction of Santa. It's not what I envision when I see Santa. I go back to the older days. I go back to, those types of movies and I mean, the biggest thing, it doesn't even have Santa really involved in it, but is like Christmas, with that type of feeling and everything else, because it's a feeling about Christmas. It's not so much about the comical type of vision of Tim Allen or even Kurt Russell, and that type.
True. Yeah, but if Mrs. Claus looked like Goldie Hawn, who's to say no?
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Now, we've sort of focused on, when we're talking about kids coming to see you, the sort of the heartwarming stories of it all, but you must also hear some incredibly heartbreaking things. And I mean, in some ways, how do you get through some of that? That's got to be just so painful to hear some of these stories and just, or even piece them together as the kids are talking to you. How do you do that? How do you walk that fine line? Because I feel like I would be a blubbering wreck pretty early on.
Well, some days are really difficult, especially, when you get a parent or a grandparent that passes away within days of the visit before you.
Mm.
Those are the most, ones, because those are the freshest ones, in the child's mind and the parent's mind and everything else. And, and what the expectations are for Christmas and how to help heal it and everything else, and then you get the children, that ask, that their father or their mother or their grandmother or grandfather, would come back for Christmas, and, in talking to their parents beforehand and stuff like that, that they passed away and there's nothing that you could really do, and you can only, sit down and talk with the child and try and make them feel better about it. And, some children, would ask you to pray with them, and, Santa would sit there and pray with them, and, but Santa's not going to say to them, let's pray, so to speak, because we don't know, especially in the world of Santa. You have Christian-based Santas and you have ones that are non-secular type of Santas. And, it's a fine line that you have to figure out while you're talking to the children or the parents, which line they take, because you don't want to impose your views or your beliefs on somebody else, because, I've seen it, not personally, but I've seen it, where it's gone wrong, where people get upset. So, but, I've done that, and and I've done a few hospice visits and stuff with children, and some, some elderly nursing home visits and stuff. And, there's a difference between, the regular child and stuff and somebody that, is not going to be here next season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to keep everything in check until you walk out of the room, and, anybody that's in that type of position, I don't care who you are, would break down,
Yeah.
have an emotional,
How much of everything you exude during the season do you take with you and utilize or I don't know, exemplify throughout the rest of the year? Are you always Santa?
Yeah, I'm Santa 365 days a year. It's kind of tough to get away from this round box that way. I mean, I try to live my life an example, of being kind every day. I mean, I don't go around judging people, and I don't go around picking fights with people, and I'm a pretty mellow person, so to speak, and I work with a lot of Santas, and I try and mentor and tutor a lot of Santas and everything else. Discussions that we have. I'm the events manager for IBRBS, the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas, and I put together the conventions that we have, and we have one coming up in April in Atlanta, and we have 600 Santas and Mrs. Clauses that'll all be together, the Grand Hyatt there, interacting and learning from each other. We have over 40 workshops, where we sit down and we take the best of the Santas and the Mrs. Clauses, sit down and mentor other Santas that are coming up, and even with all the years that I have, I always learn something new. So,
Heidi, we got to book our rooms for that.
Oh my gosh, we totally do.
So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit? Oh, sorry.
No.
Well, I was going to ask about this. I don't even know how you pronounce it. The IBRBS, the IBR. Can you explain what that is, and sort of like, I mean, you touched a little bit on the work you do, What kind of workshops are you offering at these conferences?
Well, IBRBS basically is an international brotherhood of real bearded Santas. We're basically what we sound like. We have Santas that are throughout the world, you know, in Denmark, in Australia, in Japan, and Brazil, and Mexico, and, you know, even Israel. We have members that are from, you know, the workshops that we put together, or, you know, we break it down between beginner Santas and Mrs. Clauses to, you know, the most qualified of Santas and Mrs. Clauses, you know, where we do workshops and we talk about the do's and the don'ts, and, you know, what do you say to hold yourself? How do you believe it or not, not every Santa has a pure white beard, and, you know, even me. But, you know, how do you go about and turn your brown beard or black beard or redhead into a Santa profile, getting white, you know, for the Christmas season, and how do you go about teaching and everything else? And I always talk about all the Mrs. Clauses that are out there and everything else, and make a joke with them and say, you know, I don't want to hear you talk or complain about having to bleach a mustache. Nothing like trying to full head of hair and a full beard every piece.
Do you have a whole section on ho ho hoing, or is that just something you have to do your own, find your own voice of that?
Everybody has their own. You know, I don't do a very loud ho ho ho, because, you know, I find that it scares the children more than the children. Mine over the years has become just a part of my natural laugh, you know, and you know, when I laugh, it comes out, you know. So, you know, I'm not going to stand there at the middle of the door and scream ho 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 to somebody, and then all of a sudden you got 60 kids in a room and 35 of them are afraid to come near you because
Right.
you know, just intimidate something that they weren't expecting. So, you know, like I say, I try to keep myself a little bit lower key, you know, and I find, you know, that over the years and everything else, that you're able to get more of the children to come to you and to interact with you, because you're soft spoken and you're easygoing, than person who's bold and brash and, you know, really out there and everything else, because, you know, they get intimidated, you know, like anything else. So, you know, but yeah, there's classes on how to do ho ho ho. There's classes on how to bleach your beard. There's classes on, you know, where do you hold your hands? How do you hold your hands? What do you say to a child? What do you say to the parents? You know, where do you get all your equipment from? You know, who makes your shoes? You know, we have
Think of that.
you know, we have vendors there that in Atlanta we have over 40 vendors, and, you know, not only am I a Santa, but I also manufacture and design equipment for Santas, you know, whether
That's
it's
awesome.
clothes or suits or whatever and stuff like that. You know, so we have a whole network of Santa suppliers out there that'll make you a suit, or make you a 4-inch leather belt, or make a belt buckle to go with it, and boots and belt, you know. And then we have all the different other vendors, you know, like Hire Santa, that does a lot of placements of Santas throughout the country, and also do a lot of virtual visits with our company and everything, which is a big key last year, you know, with COVID being around and everything else. You know, they put together a lot of programs, you know, for Santas to be able to work and make some income coming in, because most of us, you know, are you know, in our late 60s or 70s, and, you know, most of our income comes from our retirement on Social Security, and, you know, the Santa business and everything else is a supplement to what we do during the year, you know, which is, you know, quite important to, you know, to a lot of us. You know, I mean, I didn't work last year. You know, I had COVID last year. Actually, I was hospitalized 3 times with it.
Oh gosh.
You know, but, you know, I mean, you know, I got through it. I got better. You know, I got my vaccines, and I got my booster shot a couple of weeks ago. You know, but once again, when we talk to Santas and everything else, you know, we're not going to tell any Santa that what it has to be a personal choice whether they want a vaccine or not. And then the big thing is the opportunity between the person who's hiring for the event, whether it's a mall or whether it's a home visit or a corporate visit, whether or not they want to have the person vaccinated or not. And they're the ones that have the ultimate choice. It's either yes or no, and then if they don't feel comfortable with it, then they need to hire somebody else. And if the Santa doesn't feel comfortable with it, then he needs to refuse it. So, and I think that's where the biggest breakdown this year comes from, in the Santa community. I don't think that we're that short-handed on Santas per se. We have a lot of Santas that chose not to get back into it because they're still a little leery about meeting with children and everything else because of the Delta variant and everything else that are going around. And I think one of the biggest problems is that the malls themselves, and we all know that every year there's more and more malls that are disappearing throughout the country. Mm-hmm. So there's less places for Santas to actually visit. Right. Sit down and meet with the children on a one-on-one basis a lot of times.
So I think a good way to kind of wrap up is to say, for yourself and for anybody listening who is looking to, and this sounds weird to put it this way, get themselves a Santa for this holidays. What are the things that you should look for? Is it the IBRBS membership? Is that sort of a sign of quality? What's the question you should ask every Santa from your experience that is going to guarantee someone's going to have a good experience with Santa?
Well, one of the things about IBRBS, we don't put ourselves out there as a marketing tool, and we don't put ourselves out there as a hiring tool for any Santa. If somebody comes to us looking to hire a Santa or whatever, we don't get involved with that because it's too much, and we're a group of 15 volunteers that run an organization of 2,000 people, and wow. We have enough to do on a daily basis to keep it going. We would send them to hire or a gig salad, or one of the other organizations that are putting out and hiring Santas and everything else. But I think the biggest thing right now for anybody looking to hire a Santa, whether it's a home visit or a party visit, is to follow up with one of the organizations. And put out your expectations. If you want the person to be vaccinated, if they got to be fully vaccinated, do you want them to have the booster shot? Are they going to be required to wear a mask during their performance there? Are the children going to be required to wear a mask? I mean, we all know that 60% or 70%, of what we do involves children under the age of 12. And seeing that vaccinations are just starting for children under the age of 12, it's still going to be a difficult year for, the children, to be out there to be fully vaccinated. And, so, I mean, that's a big key, but that has to be something between the Santa and the person hiring them, and I always say, if you feel uncomfortable with that Santa, because they're not vaccinated or they don't want to wear a mask or, I mean, me personally, it doesn't matter to me. If a client says to me, you have to wear a mask, I'm going to wear a mask. Is the picture going to be what you expect it to be with Santa sitting there in a chair, and a child sitting in there and 3 people having a mask on? No. Is it something that, the child can look back on 20 years from now? Yes. So, it depends on what the attitude really of the parent is, more than the attitude or what the Santa's willing to do. And I think they'll be able to find, the perfect Santa that's going to be out there, or the perfect Mrs. Claus that's going to be out there. Because, don't forget, Mrs. Clauses do a lot of independence now, mm-hmm. The baking and cookings, the cooking, the children and stuff like that, or reading the story times, and it's important. So, I mean, hopefully next year it'll be a lot better and we can get out from underneath this cloud that we're in right now. And, for me and for IBRBS and everything else. It's not political, everybody has their own beliefs and everything, and we just go forward with it.
Yeah. Well, Santa, or should I say Howie? I don't know what you prefer. Thank you very much. This was wonderful. I will text you my list, if that's okay. I'll get Heidi your number too. For more information on the International Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas, you can check out their website. They are at IBRBS.org. For more information on Howard, to contact him, to book him, he's on Facebook.com, where he is at facebook.com/howard.graham.54.
You can check us out on all the various socials. Be sure to visit our website, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Today's show is produced by myself and Heidi Hedquist. Our reluctant producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?